Good evening. Let me call to order the Bristol, Tennessee City Council meeting of February 1, 2022. Mary Lee, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Lateral.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Fireman.
Here.
King.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Your interest in city government is very much appreciated. There are a number of opportunities to speak on matters of city business this evening. A sheet explaining those opportunities has been made available to you when entering the meeting room. As we go forward with tonight's agenda, I will note each time when public comment is welcome. In addition, a sign-up sheet has been provided as you enter City Council chamber for those individuals desiring to address City Council during the appearance of citizens section of our agenda. At this time, I would like to ask Fire Chief Mike Carrier to lead us in our invocation this evening, and following the invocation, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, as we come before you tonight, we thank you, Lord, for all the blessings you've poured out upon us. We thank you, Lord, for your mercy, for your grace, and we thank you, Lord, for your forgiveness. And most of all, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, and the sacrifice that he made for us. Tonight, Lord, as we come before you, we just pray for our nation. We love the fact that we live in a nation with the freedoms that we have. And we know, Lord, those freedoms were not cheap, that there's been a lot of men and women down through the years that have fought for the freedoms that we have. And there are many that are standing on the front lines to protect those freedoms tonight. We ask your blessings upon them. Lord, we pray for our first responders tonight, our police, our fire, our EMS, our first line of defense here on the homeland. We ask, Lord, for your hand of safety upon them, and that you would just be with them and help them to do their jobs effectively, efficiently, as they respond to the needs of the communities. Tonight, Lord, as we come before you, we pray for the leaders of our nation. We ask, dear God, that you would just bring them together and that you would remove some of the division that we see on the national level, and that they would find room for compromise. We pray, Lord, for our local leaders. We are grateful, Lord, to live in such a great place here in Bristol, and we thank you, Lord, for these leaders. We thank you, Lord, for their willingness to sacrifice their time and their energies to be able to provide leadership to our community. And we ask tonight, Lord, that you would just put your hand upon them, that you would bless them. We ask, Lord, that you would give them your wisdom as they make the decisions to take us forward. And we pray all this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Sword, do you have any items to be added to the agenda this evening?
No, Mayor, the agenda is complete.
Okay, we have one recognition tonight. An item under the recognition selection or section of our agenda is the acknowledgement of the 5 years of excellent service provided by the healthcare staff at our City Employee Health and Wellness Clinic. Ms. Mary Lee Williams will introduce the staff and offer a few comments on their dedication to providing quality health care of our employees.
Thank you, Council. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about the accomplishments of our city clinic now that we've reached 5 years. Anyone that knows me knows I'm very passionate about this subject. Back in 2016, a goal of the city was to find ways to reduce the cost of health care and prescription costs, not only really for the city, but for employees as well. And we embarked on this journey to open a employee clinic, and we partied with a third-party service provider, Care Here, through our RFP process. And very quickly, once we opened on January 17th of 2017, we began to add a lot of services to that clinic. Not just primary care, but a lot of pre-employment, our annual police and fire physicals, wellness care, coaching, all kinds of different health and fitness programs. And I thought, you know, we present to the council every year our annual accomplishments, but it also really tells a story to look at the 5-year cumulative and some of the things that's happened now that we have ended 5 full years of operation. In that 5 years, We have increased the number of appointments from 48 a week to 87. We've provided 17,536 appointments. We have dispensed 9,721 medications, provided 575 flu injections, performed over 2,500 lab draws, and made 172 referrals to specialists. Also, looking at the data that we have so far on the financial side, the services that we have rendered inside the city clinic walls really would have cost us about $1 million more outside of the clinic over at least 4-year period. There's been a lot of productivity saved in that there's very little wait time at our employee clinic. Our employees are saving money in that there is no copay for any of the services or generic drugs that are dispensed at the clinic. We also have saved employees probably over a 4-year period about $700 on average in copays, and that's just in copays. Also, an important story is that over this time we've saved about $250,000 with the clinic, and I can assure you that dollar amount is what's made the difference in us continuing to offer a very rich health plan for our employees and keeping the premiums affordable, because obviously healthcare costs over the last 5 years have not gone down. And I think another important number that's really dear to my heart is it's more than a dollar amount, and that's that we feel like by bringing people into the clinic that we've really deferred or deterred other illness and disease, and probably over $3 million worth is the estimate that the clinic gives us on that. And I looked back at my notes when we opened the clinic 5 years ago, and on that day I talked about how in my 30 years of working in 3 different HR departments, a lot has changed, but the one thing that was constant for me is what I saw as a struggle that families had when it came to health care. It costs money, it costs time, and quite honestly, I've always, wherever I've been, there's been some employees that was just uneasy, uncomfortable walking into a health facility. And, those were the people that we really wanted to get into the clinic and serve. And I really think in the 5 years, the numbers that we just talked about, we broke down a lot of those barriers. We took away the copays. We made it convenient. People can make our employees and their dependents can make their appointments before and after school and work. And really, it's in a place that the employees can call their own. It's really been a team effort, not just about my staff, but staff across the city. We get a lot of support from facilities, and I'll never forget the day that Terry Napier showed me the facility he had found for us to move into, and we worked through that, and I'll just never forget that. And they've provided us a lot of support. All of the directors and department heads and supervisors keep the information about the clinic on the forefront of the employees' minds and help them however they need to get services through the clinic. And of course, I really want tonight to introduce you to some folks that you don't see on a regular basis, and that's our Care Here staff. To say that they go above and beyond is the biggest understatement of the night. I can tell you that these ladies are available and go beyond anything in their contract. It's not unusual for us to call on them on weekends and evenings and holidays if there's a need, and every time they rise to the occasion. So I wanted to be sure for you to meet them. Ladies, if you want to come forward while I'm finishing up my remarks. We've got Jane Price, who's our clinical director. Jane has been with us since the very beginning, and I tell everyone that she treats us like we're her only client, and we are not, by far, her only client. We have Laura Lawson, our nurse practitioner, and Rachel Bish, our nurse. And I want to read to you, I had a whole list of comments from employees, but I just want to read you a few because I think they really tell a story. Our employees have said, the staff is great. I love this clinic. I love the staff. I felt like they were concerned about me as a person, and I wasn't just another appointment. They always go above and beyond and listen to my questions and concerns. Today, the staff was very positive about the lifestyle changes I've made and accomplished and praised the work I've done, which made me feel great. They're really concerned. They took the time to explain everything in detail. They diagnosed an illness and took time to dive deeper to find the underlying causes. They called to check on me and my family while we had COVID and offered to call again because we felt so secluded. They made me feel like family. They treated me with care and respect. They're easy to talk to, caring, and efficient. They're friendly and committed. Worked hard to see all the patients today in advance of the holiday break. I trust them to take care of my whole family, and they go out of their way to serve the city. This one gets me. The nurse practitioner literally saved my life. Ladies, we appreciate all you do. It's just an incredible, I'm so proud to be a small part of what you do, and there are not enough words to express our appreciation for the help that you've given us making the clinic a success the last 5 years, so we thank you. Council want to come up and have their picture made with the staff. I think we talked about that earlier. We'd love for you to do that.
Would anybody like to comment? Council?
I certainly would. Want to make sure there's a song?
No.
Push your button.
No. Okay, there we go. I just wanted to tell Laura. Laura's been there ever since the clinic opened, if I'm not mistaken. And I get blood work every 6 months at the clinic. And the treatment that she gives me is really special. But I'll say this, and Rachel's fairly new, maybe about a year. No, is that right, Rachel? You've been there about August, yeah. You're doing a great job, too. But Laura, I had some chest pains back a few years ago. And Laura gave me advice on what to do and exactly what to do. And I did that, and I believe she saved my life as well. So thank you.
I would just say thank you. I know that it's been very meaningful for our employees and our associates. It does so many different things. It makes them feel good and reassures them, but it helps us to maintain consistency with our workforce. And it's a benefit that helps us to attract employees to come into our working system. The savings through your efficiencies are outstanding over 5 years. And what Mary Lee shared with us, it's about a total of $5 million, $1 million a year. And so it's meaningful on every level, and we just can't thank you enough for your ongoing contributions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just say in our country, healthcare is difficult for many, many people. And so I just appreciate what we've done with y'all to make it a whole lot easier for at least some of our population here in Bristol to take care of themselves. It's not always easy. So thank you very much.
No, just thanks for everything you did. Thank you.
You know, this program is the envy of many communities, and, you know, we're so fortunate that we can do this, and it's so fortunate to have a staff as talented as you guys are. So with that, I just want to say thank you and keep up the great work.
And thanks for doing overtime, coming to be with us tonight, too.
Okay, we have no presentations or public hearings on tonight's agenda, so we'll move on. This brings us to the appearance of citizens section of our agenda. This section provides an opportunity for the public to address City Council on any matter that is not on the printed agenda for formal consideration. Comments are limited to matters City Council business only. The response will not likely be made at this time, since in most cases neither the City Council nor the City Manager will be prepared to effectively respond to the concern. The City Manager will look into this matter and report back to City Council, or, as appropriate, have staff meet with you in an effort to satisfy your concern. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual and are not transferable to other individuals. Groups are encouraged to select a spokesperson to represent them. I have been provided a list of individuals desiring to address council this evening, and the city manager, he'll monitor the 3-minute time limit for each speaker. So at this time, we have Mr. Kyle Moore.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, mayor, vice mayor, I appreciate you hearing me tonight and the time.
Kyle, would you tell us where you live at, sir?
Yeah, I live in Still Creek Colony, close to Still Creek Park, so that's relative to why I'm here to speak to you tonight. As you know, there is a proposal that will be before you for consideration. It's been spoken about in the media. Specifically, a lot of the information that I'm going from is a Bristol Herald Courier article on the 25th by Hoek and Mancera that discusses, what this is about, and then actually attach the proposal itself, which I have read. And specifically, though, I'm here to voice, a formal declaration of my opposition to repurposing the golf course to a campground. And so I'll just talk a little bit about that, I suppose. Within the article that I mentioned, the case for doing so, part of that is the current endowment for the golf course to the amount of, I think it's $81,000 is mentioned. And then furthermore, some 2019 data of participation of the golf course was used. That $81,000 was apparently divided by this 191 and then used to state a per player subsidy, and then use that as justification to spend $4.1 million on this campground. So if you consider this paltry spending of $80,000 a year for an entire golf course that the community enjoys, and I will mention that 191 number, I'm really uncertain as to how we can be sure of that, because a lot of people pay in cash and don't always sign in and that sort of thing. And furthermore, many of those players might have played multiple times, and I don't see any indication that the rates they paid were included in that number. So just altogether, it seems like it's not entirely fair. Additionally, I see language in this proposal that it is pro-environment. I do not find that to be the case. If you'll excuse me, I have allergies. I just do not find that to be the case when we're talking about bulldozing 11.5 acres and building a bunch of facilities on it. So that's where we're at. I'm really passionate about this as a golf player, but also as an environmentalist, and given that this is a public park that's, I would think its main purpose is environmental in nature. And I would just really plead with the council to not, specifically do not repurpose the golf course for a campground. I guess I just want to, until I run out of time, I have way too much information for 3 minutes. So I just wanted to mention that this $4.1 million is this 11.5 acre development with that operating expenses are going to approach $250,000 by the third year. I sort of find the payroll expenses included in this unrealistic, so I find the expenses, this is going to be something we're living with for a long time. And we have, $46,000 in there for janitorial expenses. I don't see anything about increased police
Mr. Moore,
enforcement.
sorry to interrupt, but your 3 minutes is up.
Okay,
So,
I'd be happy to
thank you.
speak with the members outside of the meeting at your convenience, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. This time I believe we have Mr. Lynn Doherty.
Was that this?
May it please the council, my name is Lynn Doherty, and I live in the Fairmount Historic District, and I have lived there for the last 32 years. My home was built before Oklahoma was a state. It was built 12 years before the first pandemic. And I and my family have lived there for more than 3 decades and flourished. But now we are under assault by the city of Bristol, Virginia. I know I need not tell any member of the severity of the situation with the toxins from the landfill. I know it's touched each and every one of you. Now is a time for inaction, for action, not inaction. Now is a time for champions. And I need you to be my family's champion, my neighbor's champions. If you had any doubt as to whether or not Bristol, Virginia really cares about our situation, then the last 2 weeks should have eliminated those thoughts. The headlines in the paper were, Bristol, Virginia is borrowing $22 million for a new school. Well, I'm glad for them, and I'm glad for their children. But without a mention that our flagship school here in Fairmount, that our city spent tens of millions of dollars to build, is under siege every day. And our teachers aren't worried about teaching, they're worried about whether our children can breathe. Please move forward with your lawsuit on the behalf of the people of Bristol, Tennessee. For without it, without that creative tension, there will be no creative solution. I appreciate all you've gone through. And I know that none of you signed up to be the champions of the people of Bristol, Tennessee, but there you are. And I know that you will fulfill that job. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in attendance this evening who would like to address council? Okay, seeing none. We have appointments to be made to 2 of our boards this evening. First, we have 3 appointments to be made to the Beer Board. The term of the appointments will be for a period of 4 years ending January 31, 2026. The candidates are Clyde Downs, Robert Greason, Jr., and Mark Hutton. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidates?
I guess I could speak on behalf of all of them. I served with Mr. Greason sometime when I was on the beer board, and Mr. Hutton is one of our city commissioners, and Butch Downs is actually one of our constables, and I know he serves on the Park and Recreation Board also, and I think all 3 will do a great job. So.
And I have the highest respect as well for all of them, and so I think any 2 of the 3 would do really well.
I was just going to appreciate everybody who serves on our boards, and on this one in particular, a couple of folks rolled off and did not ask to be reappointed. Bob Greason did, and the continuity with knowledge, et cetera, is important. So with 2 new members coming on, I'm grateful that he has that he has applied to serve again, so, and also can say nice things about the other folks as well.
It's so important that we have people to apply to serve on our boards and commissions, and we've got 3 outstanding candidates, and we appreciate their willingness to serve. And I agree with Margaret, the consistency is always important.
Yeah, I concur with what everybody said also, and, you know, these boards and commissions, they're very important to our community. And as a city council, you know, we encourage, you know, folks to get involved. Just, you know, go to our website and see what comes up, what's open. If you're interested, by all means, you know, put in for it. Again, you know, we need good folks on these boards and commissions. Thank you.
Okay. Lateral votes for Clyde Downs, Robert Greason Jr., and Mark Hutton. Turner votes for Clyde Downs, Robert Greason Jr., and Mark Hutton. Fire Robin votes for Clyde Downs, Robert Greason Jr., Mark Hutton. Keene votes for Clyde Downs, Robert Greason Jr., and Mark Hutton. And Powers votes for Clyde Downs, Robert Greason Jr., and Mark Hutton. We have 3 appointments.
Next, we have one appointment to be made this evening to the Library Board. The appointment will fulfill an unexpired term of office ending December 11, 2024. The candidate is Ms. Sherry Hutton. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidate?
Well, I could speak on behalf of her also. She's, I believe she's a vice principal now. Is she?
At Avoca.
At Avoca, and so I think she would be a great addition to the library board. So.
Yes, and you just finished serving previous to me on the library board. School folks are especially appreciated on that library board, so we're excited. I'm the current representative. I'm real excited that she will participate. We've just appointed Ms. Peak last time or time before, Crystal, and she did work for the school system, so those folks bring a lot of expertise and skill to the library board that's appreciated.
Okay.
Should do a great job, and I appreciate all of our volunteers, people stepping up. We're very fortunate within the city of Bristol, the number of people that really help the city on these board positions. And I don't think people realize just how important it is, so appreciate all of them.
Okay. Luttrell votes for Sherry Hutton. Turner votes for Sherry Hutton. Fire Robin votes for Sherry Hutton. Keene votes for Sherry Hutton. And Powers votes for Sherry Hutton.
Okay. Move on to ordinances and resolutions. Tonight we have one ordinance and 2 resolutions on our agenda for consideration. The first item is Ordinance 22-1, amending the zoning map for the city of Bristol by designating certain property on Steel Creek Road as R3 multifamily residential. Mr. Sora, would you please summarize Ordinance 22-1?
Yes, Mayor, I'll provide a brief overview, and then Sheriff Young will provide the details of the rezoning request. Staff did receive a request for the rezoning of 23.8 acres of land located on Steel Creek Road. The property, which referred to as parcels 167 and 168, are currently zoned R1A, which is low family or low density single family residential. The owner, which is Steel Creek 237 LLC, is requesting the property to be rezoned from the R1A to R3 multifamily residential. The purpose of the R3 zone is to accommodate moderate density multifamily residential use. The owner intends to combine the parcels with property located to the west and to the north of the subject property to allow for a larger residential development. On January 24th, our Planning Commission reviewed the request and voted in a vote of 7-1 to send a favorable recommendation regarding the rezoning request to Council. If approved this evening, then a public hearing will be scheduled for March 1st along with second reading. Sheriff Young, our Planning Services Manager, is with us this evening. She'll detail the allowed uses in the R3 and also reference the subject property.
Thank you, Mr. Sora. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So I'll begin after that introduction with a location map to show you the parcels that are the subject for the rezoning tonight. So on the screen is a location map that shows the parcels. They're hatched in red that are subject to the request to the R3 rezoning. As Mr. Sora stated in his introduction, these are currently zoned R1A. So you can see some R1A in the vicinity of this project along Schenkel Mill and Still Creek Road. And then you can see along West State Street, which this parcel abuts some West State Street property, that the parcels along West State Street are zoned B3 or our general business district. This map looks a little funny turned upside down, but I just wanted to orient the maps in the same way. So the parcels that are in blue here are subject to the R3 rezoning request tonight. The owner of these two parcels also owns this parcel, which is shaded in red, and it is zoned B3. And right here, that's shaded in yellow, is the Tennessee-Virginia state line. There are also two parcels in Virginia, across the state line here, that are underway with the rezoning process on the Bristol, Virginia side. These parcels are requested in the Virginia side to be R3 as well, and the Bristol, Virginia City Council voted to approve that request last week at their meeting. It's a little bit of a different process, so they do have some readings to follow up on now, but that was approved at their meeting last week. Here are a few photos of the property along Still Creek Road. You can see, and if you've driven out there, it is hilly. There is a creek that runs along the Still Creek Road boundary line, which you see on the lower right-hand photo. And included in your packet is a map that shows both the topography of this area. So these yellow lines are 10-foot contour lines. So you can see that it is a hilly piece of property. You can also see along the Still Creek Road property line that there is some flood zone there. So there's a blue line stream. That's shown in blue. There's also a flood zone. So the pink is an unnumbered A flood zone, which are somewhat difficult to build in, takes some engineering work and study. So there is some natural features here that will guide the development here on this property. I've included in your packet a conceptual drawing that we have received from the developer. I'll show this because it shows what they're considering doing here. So along West State Street, you'll see a purple shaded building that's a retail building. You'll see apartments here in orange, and then townhomes along this backside of the property. You can see that they are leaving a lot of that Still Creek Road side of the property undeveloped due to those natural features there. But we do have this. I do have a conceptual plan or conceptual elevations of what the apartment homes could look like. Just with the reminder that if this property is rezoned, it is rezoned to R3. It is not tied to this approval. It's not tied to this project, and would certainly allow any of the uses that are approved and allowed in the R3 zone. So we do have these drawings, and they are conceptual in nature, no dimensions, numbers on it yet, but did want to provide that to council for review. So a summary of the permitted uses if this property is approved for the rezoning. So currently in the R1A zone, permitted uses include single family and duplexes, and then any use permitted in the RM zone, which includes uses such as cemeteries, general farming and gardening, public parks, utilities, and public libraries. If the property is rezoned to R3, the big addition here is that they would be able to do multifamily developments, and that would be a multifamily development at 13 units per acre. Assisted living facilities are also permitted uses in the R3 zone. So this image shows an excerpt of our future land use plan. The property that's shown in darker red is slated for commercial development, so it's categorized as commercial. What is in purple is a medium density land use, Now, the medium-density land use definition is 6 units an acre, so this is above that 6 unit an acre at the R3 request. But there are policies that accompany the land use plan that can support a deviation from the strict application of those colors. So in our land use policies, we have policy number 2, which talks about providing a housing inventory diversified in dwelling unit type, size, and design that supports the local population, attracts new residents, and creates a high-quality residential development. So given this property's location, given the fact that it's got an adjacent B3 business zone along West State Street, given the fact that there are some natural features here that protect that R1A side of Still Creek Road, and given the fact that that all represents a bit of a transition between the commercial development along West State Street and more residential development along Still Creek Road, the recommendation of staff to the Planning Commission was for approval of this rezoning request. We did place public notification signs on the property. We notified adjacent property owners by letter of the project and the request. We received 1 telephone call with questions. We received 1 email from an adjacent property owner, not in opposition or in favor of the project, but requesting, expressing desire for a fence along the property line he shares with this development. We did receive 5 comment forms that were mailed out to adjacent property owners. 1 was in favor of that rezoning request, and 4 were in opposition. And there were 2 folks that showed up at the Planning Commission meeting to speak out in opposition of this request. As Mr. Soar stated in his introduction, the Planning Commission did meet on this at their last meeting, and they voted 7-1 to forward a favorable recommendation to City Council on the request. The recommendation was cited with the following reasons: that those natural elements provide some buffering for the residential area, that rezoning the subject site to R3 will provide a transition in between the commercial and residential zones, and that the rezoning request is in agreement with that land use policy number 2. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you all might have or provide any information I can.
No questions? Okay, is there a motion to take action on this item?
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Would any member of council like to discuss ordinance 22-1? Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Seeing, hearing none, I believe we're ready to vote. Mary Lee, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Lateral?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Fire Robin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 22-9, authorizing the city to enter into agreement for the relocation of sanitary, sewer, and stormwater utilities at the settlement on Georgia Avenue, a planned single-family residential development. Mr. Soar, would you please summarize this matter for the public?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution 22-9 does formalize an agreement with between the city and the settlement at Georgia Avenue, GP. This is a single-family residential development proposed for property located at 1315 Georgia Avenue, which is the former site of the Cortram or Aurora property, as it's also known. It's a 12.3-acre site, and it's the location of a proposed residential development that will contain 35 single-family units. The project represents a total capital investment of $11 million. The single-family homes are slated to or estimated to sell at a price point between $300,000 and $350,000. The developer is taking advantage of our water and sewer material incentive to advance the project. During the staff review, it was noted that our storm sewer has a surface discharge across a couple of points over the property. And to facilitate the most efficient use of the property, it's necessary to capture this surface discharge and pipe it to the other side of the property or to Cedar Creek, which borders the property. In addition, during the review of the property, The sewer line is an older sewer line, and it's nearing its capacity and the end of its service life. So this is a good opportunity to partner with the developer in replacing that line. The estimated cost for piping the stormwater is anticipated to be around $60,000, and around $65,000 for the, reverse, $65,000 for the public stormwater and $60,000 for the sanitary sewer. We do have the developers with us this evening. We have Jordan Hodges and we have Joey Powers. And also Tim Beavers is going to review the site for you so you have a good depiction on the replacement of the pipe. Tim?
Yes, good evening. Mr. Sawyer summarized this project very well, this development agreement on this screen, and talked about it. And as he said, we have Joey Powers and Jordan Hodges, the developers, are here. Just a few screenshots for you all to look. Some representative elevations for those homes. These aren't the exact, but these are just some representations of the type of homes that will be located on this development. As Mr. Sawyer mentioned, it's, right now the plans show 35 units. I think there might be an additional unit they've been able to find room for, so it might be 36. Just a location map. It's hard to see with the lighting, but this is the Cortrin property that the property will be located on. There will be an entrance off Georgia Avenue to a cul-de-sac, and then you can see faintly, like I said, it's hard to see in this lighting, the homes outside the roadway there. The sewer line, and I'll show a better slide, but the sewer line we're talking about relocation for is the sewer line that comes along this property line. It is in need of replacement and was identified for replacement by the city, and we felt this was a good opportunity to partner with a developer on that relocation to help serve them and serve our purposes. It is a shared cost, 96%. We based it on the area of the sewer shed. 96% of the relocation costs will be borne by the city, with the other 4% by the developer, and that was based on acreages of the sewer shed in this development. But this line right here would be the new sewer alignment. This right here, it's hard to hold that steady. And then there are also 2 points that public stormwater discharges onto the property. You have an 18-inch pipe discharges in this location, and a 36-inch pipe discharges over here into, it just basically free flows across the property, the public water right now. And so we felt it prudent, and the developers were agreeable to help us, and if we would purchase the material to extend those piping systems to the creek, they would bear the cost of installation of that system. Basically ran over that, talking about the sanitary sewer lines and storm sewer lines. That's a better picture of just the storm sewer. You have this 36-inch pipe relocation here, or extension here, and then the 18-inch pipe extension right there. The sanitary sewer comes from, it's existing. You can see it barely. There's a line right there. You can see it barely. But this is the proposed relocation for the sewer line. As spoke, the reimbursement agreement would be 94% of the sanitary sewer cost by the city, about 965 feet. We are estimating about $60,000 for that expense. And then the storm sewer is about 650 feet of 36-inch pipe and 580 feet of 18-inch pipe. And that's where estimated material costs about $65,000. And the reimbursement to developer for these expenses would occur upon completion and acceptance of those infrastructure costs or systems. And with that, I can answer any questions, and the developers, I'm sure if you have any questions for them, would be more than happy to speak.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Does any member of council have any additional questions? Oh, sorry.
So it would have the stormwater, the curbing. Does it have any sidewalks?
This development, the way they're development, they're going to use the Horizontal Property Act, so it's really just an access road. It's not curbed. I don't believe at this time they're trying to keep it where it'll sheet flow off to help with water quality in that area. So, but I didn't see, right now we don't have the actual design documents, but I haven't seen anything about sidewalks, but they're not required by us in any of our ordinances we
I
have.
was just curious.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Just a nice to have, though, isn't it, Lee?
It is, if it can be, but if water quality and runoff is accomplished without, then, it is.
So, where did we recently put sidewalks required?
I don't think we've had a subdivision recently that has required sidewalks. Just trying to think of the last sidewalks that were required that we installed, that were installed as a part of the requirement. I just can't think off the top of my head of one development that we've done that on recently.
No, I don't think we have in a residential subdivision. Certainly we have in capital projects that we've entertained, such as East Cedar
Right.
Street and areas, especially on state routes like Virginia Avenue and so forth.
We'll talk at our planning commission. I thought we had some regulation changes to require it on one side of the street.
If it's a subdivision, like extension of a public road, this is not. This is just, think of it as an access drive to apartments or anything else, the way they're dividing. The individuals won't own a lot. You know, it'll be it's sort of like cottages at Feathers Chapel, except they're single-family units. There'll be common ownership and common groundskeeping, and then the owner will own the individual footprint of the home itself.
They have sidewalks there.
Yeah, so.
Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter?
What I would say is that I'm glad, I'm not in the audience, but to say that it's good to see young entrepreneurs taking on these types of projects, and housing is a need in our community, and we're glad that you're taking this on.
And I might mention, I forgot one thing, they are very aggressive on this. I think their plans are to try to have all the units built within a year, year and a half, if I remember correct. So,
Stole my question.
thank you.
Good. Okay. Mary Lee, I'll be ready to call the roll.
Lateral,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Firebolt,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 22-10, approving an amendment to the City of Bristol redevelopment plan by expanding the Green Property / West State Street redevelopment district boundaries. Mr. Zor, would you please summarize this matter for the public?
Yes, Mayor. As council's aware, over the past several years, there's been considerable focus by council on the redevelopment of West State Street. This process began, I guess, in 2017 with the development of the new B2E zone, which adjusted property setbacks and parking requirements to remove impediments that the B3 zoning, which it was at that time, kept the property from redeveloping in a higher land use. So the B2E accomplished that from Volunteer Parkway to 18th Street. Also, within that same time frame, council extended the redevelopment district, which allows the use of, or provides the use of, tax increment financing in terms of redeveloping the property. Extended that from Volunteer Parkway to 18th Street, and then further west from the Skateway Park to Stafford Street. So what this does this evening, it connects those two sections along the redevelopment area between 18th Street and Skateway Drive, that would allow for the use of tax increment financing. More than likely, it would help a property owner aggregate, because these are small parcels there. So in order to generate a significant TIF, the property would need to be aggregated, and a significant project that would attract high-quality commercial development would be a contemplated use. Matt Garland, our business development specialist, is going to further detail the issue and the actions that the Bristol Housing Authority has taken regarding this property. Matt.
So, thank you, Mr. Swora, for that summary. As he said, we've been working with Bristol Housing. I have documents that go back as far as 2004 in regard to redevelopment areas and looking at different areas within the city to be considered. Back in December, we had a public meeting Public was allowed to speak. We presented redevelopment area along West State Street, commercial parcels on the south, Gateway Drive on the west. It's 52 acres and 39 parcels. The total appraised value of this area that you see in blue hatch is about $20.5 million of appraised land value. There was a determination by Bristol Housing that it met the conditions to become a redevelopment area. We held that meeting, I guess it was last week, and the Housing Board of Directors voted unanimously to accept it as a redevelopment district. We're using only commercial areas and manufacturing. If you see that through the public comment process, there was some concern about the residential areas within a larger redevelopment area that we had, so we scaled that back. Everybody seemed happy with that. We had no complaints or comments or anything in regard to that. The very nice thing out of this, and on the next slide, I know it's hard to see, but basically what you're seeing now is not just a West State Street, green property, West State Street redevelopment area. If this resolution is approved, it will now become a redevelopment district. And so that runs all along West State Street corridor, beginning at Volunteer Parkway, and it terminates past Stafford Street. If you see, it's an unnamed road that's there, but that gives us just another tool in the toolbox for developers to come in to look at property for potential redevelopment, and we're hoping that this can go through, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Okay, does any member of council have questions for staff? Is there a motion to take action on this item?
Motion to approve Resolution 2210.
Second.
Would any member of council like to discuss Resolution 22-10? Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter?
You're quick on the trigger, Mayor. I'm not an audience. We've looked at this for a long time, and there's been a lot of discussion about West State Street and trying to improve the situation there with redevelopment. And we passed some time ago from Volunteer Parkway to 18th
Street.
And then, what did we do that, like 3 years ago?
Probably 2017 or 2018 in that time frame.
3 or 4 years ago. And now this completes that whole corridor. So I think our folks should be really pleased with this opportunity for redevelopment, and I think it's really great. We rode out that way tonight before coming to this meeting, and we've got a lot of utilities that are underground out that way currently. There's a break there from 18th on out that we still don't have the utilities underground yet, but we do still have the new sidewalks that we put in. So I think there are this is a very positive move in the right direction. And to be clear, this has been in process now for years.
Well, like I said, I have documents dating back to 2004.
Right.
Where this has been discussed. So this being the final piece of the puzzle, it's a good addition to our community.
Yes, I think everyone should be very pleased that we've extended this on out West State Street. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, would anyone in the audience like to address council? Okay. Seeing none, I believe we're ready for a vote. Mary Lee?
Lateral?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Yes.
Good job. This brings us to the consent agenda. Mr. Soar, would you please read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor, we have the minutes of the January 11th, 2022 City Council meeting. We have the minutes from the January 13th, 2022 City Council called work session. We have the minutes from the January 25th, 2022 City Council work session. In addition, we have Resolution 2211 awarding a bid for the purchase of a forklift, Resolution 2212 awarding a bid for the purchase of a compact utility tractor with cab, and Resolution 2213 authorizing the purchase of tasers for the police department.
Would any member of council like any of the items removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the items included in the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
I'll second the consent agenda's approval.
Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Lateral,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Firewalden,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Yes.
This takes us to our Board of Education liaison report. Dr. Tudor, it's your turn.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all. I'll be brief since I'm the only thing keeping everyone from going home.
You're not the only thing.
Well, good. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on CTE in our school district. We had a good meeting yesterday. We're close to, I think, getting you all some information about our proposed renovation project. Mr. Beavers has been extremely helpful in that process, particularly in our meeting yesterday. So thank you for that support. We're excited about whatever opportunities that may bring in the future for our community and our students, certainly. I wanted to update you on Industry Day. We are just a couple of weeks away from our 25th Industry Day that we partner with BTES to offer that to our, it's really an opportunity for our staff to visit some area industries and partner with industries in our community so they get to see what the employment needs are from their perspective, and then our teachers come back and work on ways that they can incorporate job-embedded type skills and preparation into their lesson plans. And so it's exciting to think that that's been going on for 24 years. That's impacted over the course of those 24 years that we've already had that. Over 700 teachers have participated in that, which is pretty significant. This next time we'll have close to 50 folks participating with at least 20 different industry partners. And I know you all actually participate that, city staff and police and fire, I know, accept our folks and take them on tours and entertain them for a few hours, so we appreciate that. Out of that, a couple of years ago, came our pre-apprentice program. So the first pre-apprenticeship that we had was as a direct result of Industry Day 2 years ago. J.A. Street and some folks from the state of Tennessee were there on that day. That's how that was born. Since that time, we've had 3 students hired by J.A. Street as a direct result of their pre-apprenticeship. And we're actually expanding with Robinette Company to offer another pre-apprenticeship in manufacturing. So we've just actually submitted the paperwork to the state for approval for that. So great opportunities for our students. We take care of the education part of that at Tennessee High School, and they get some job-embedded skills and training with the employer, and they're hiring them on, and it's a seamless transition from high school into the workforce. So it's been so far very well received, and hopefully we can expand on that and have more opportunities to provide a workforce in our community, which is great. We've also expanded dual enrollment with Northeast State Community College. We're offering a paint and body cluster, so some of our students are getting that industry, they'll end up getting that industry certification through Northeast State, as well as dual enrollment credit, which has been great. We're starting work hopefully very soon on the Friendship Career Center. By the time we open that in the fall, we'll be expanding and including HVAC and agriculture programs into that as well. If you happen to catch the governor's State of the State address last night, lots of encouraging proposals in his budget for the coming year about supporting education in our state, really beyond K-12, but obviously I'm pretty excited about the opportunities for K-12. Significant investments in teacher salaries, but also, as I've mentioned previously, really promoting and supporting a revised funding formula for education in our state and investing additional dollars in that, not just changing the formula, but a commitment from him last night to really support adding more dollars to that, which I think gives us lots of opportunities in the state of Tennessee to support our students and give them plenty of opportunities. And then finally, just want to point out, we've recently acknowledged our Teachers of the Year for our buildings, and so I just wanted to publicly acknowledge those folks. Lucretia Brown at Anderson, Angie Meredith at Avoca, Jamie Cross at Fairmount, Kim Gassett at Haynesfield, Jenny Swaggerty at Holston View, Spencer Finch at TMS, Tara Hartsoe at THS, and Alexis Arnold at TOPS. And then we have district representatives who go on to the state level, and those are Kim Gassett from Haynesfield, Spencer Finch from TMS, and Tara Hartsoe from Tennessee High School. So obviously these folks are we're acknowledging their excellence by recognizing them as Teachers of the Year. But as you know, and I've stood in front of you before, our teachers are working harder than ever, and so all of our teachers deserve some kudos for the last couple of years of their work in our district and to continue supporting our students and their needs. So that's all I have for you, unless you have questions for me.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have City Manager's report.
Yes, Mayor, I would remind council of our attorney-client meeting at 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, February 3rd, and you will receive a Zoom invitation on this. This will be an electronic meeting with our outside counsel. Also, along those same lines, I know it's been City Council's desire to seek a non-judicial remedy to the current situation with Bristol, Virginia and their landfill. And to facilitate those discussions, our outside counsel with Troutman Pepper sent a Freedom of Information Act request to Bristol, Virginia, seeking information related to the operations of the landfill. This request was sent on January the 11th and had an initial response due date of January the 18th. Bristol, Virginia's outside counsel requested an additional 7 days to reply to our FOIA request. On January 27th, still not having received a response, our outside counsel sent an inquiry as to the status of the compliance of their request. We have not received a response to that inquiry. So I think you need to know this going into our session on Thursday.
Shocker.
City Council comment. City Council comments.
No, I guess that was it. Mine of, it's not surprising on that, but, well.
Well, I appreciate Lynn Daugherty's comments, and I know he speaks for that whole area within Fairmount, and I try to pass along all of the emails and texts and stuff that I get, but it's becoming more and more frequent, and we have a lot of folks that they're frankly just saying, we give up, we're gonna leave town, and that's tough. We do have a lot of folks that are suffering, and I know you guys already know that, but the smell has changed, and some people, when they pass by that area, I really hope we get that King College corridor as soon as we can. I think it would divert a lot of traffic from going the West State Street area, State Street towards town through the King College area. Might divert some traffic, but the folks that are living it are having tough times, and we all know it. And I'm sure you guys know also too, there are weekly protests in the downtown area. And that's just going to get worse and worse for business. So I implore on us as we have our meeting in the next few days that we act sooner than later and think along the lines, but we also have to take everything into consideration. I'll also just mention that our COVID numbers are very high right now. I think it's the highest I've ever seen them. They have not in our area, in the Ballard footprint, been any higher, and they have not peaked yet, to my knowledge. In some parts of the country, they have peaked, but we are continuing to go up, and it affects different people at different levels. We've had a lot of folks in young years that have lost their lives due to COVID. So I'll end with a positive that we're really excited what's happening in the school system, the plans that they have, the things that are happening, as you mentioned, the governor's speech, what's coming along, and CTE is very much needed. Our workforce development is much needed. We all know that most all businesses, including our city, are short-staffed. We need folks to step up and work if they can. It's very tough out there, and ballot is one great example where we are extremely loading our current nurses and staff members and doctors at the hospital. I don't know how much longer they can take it. So we've got a few things that are in crisis, but I appreciate everything, and I'm glad everybody had a happy New Year. We got Valentine's Day to look forward to, so that's it for me.
So I can go ahead and go. And thanks, Chad, for, I think the news was that our region, and I'm not sure if that was Tennessee and Virginia, I did not go back and look closely, is one of the worst in the nation for vaccination rates, et cetera. Not something, we like to be first in a lot of things. That is not something that is good for business and good for economy. So again, I encourage folks to vaccinate, mask, distance, all those things when it's appropriate. We're in a big room now. I'm wearing my mask some of the time. Wash your hands. But we're not there yet. We hope the peak is going to come down soon, but it's still pretty rough on many people, including our healthcare workers and all the shortages of folks. Shortage anyway, and then when people are out sick, that adds to it. But I had several things that this is, tonight I was at a Martin Luther King celebration that had to be postponed with weather, and that was going to be outside. On the 17th of January, today, real briefly, one tonight prior to King Faith and Culture's lecture that was being done right now by Nadine Sistrunk Robinson. Also, they have another one coming up with Dr. Bill Turner, who's written a book, Harlan Renaissance, Stories of Black Life in Appalachian Coal. So interesting commentary on folks who made up our coal towns and coal mining industry. And he grew up in the coal fields area. Also, over the past several years, we've been looking a little bit more, our community members, at our history here in Bristol. We had two historic markers that we did in October. Prior to that, there was PBS, Black in Appalachia, has been very, very supportive of communities gathering their histories of their African American citizens and culture that hasn't been recorded as thoroughly as all the rest of history. So they've supported that gathering. We had a couple of days, I think, Terry, here at Slater, where people were encouraged to bring photos and letters and different things. So along those lines, it's my understanding that our city is doing a project on the history of Slater, which, as most of y'all may know, that this was African American high school. And also Douglas in Bristol, Virginia, that's now apartments, was also. And during segregation, people were bused here from miles away to come to high school and passed by several high schools for white kids before they were able to come to their school here at Slater or at Douglas. But gathering history on this building, and hopefully, I know Bristol, Virginia City Schools has a really nice display in their school board office. Hopefully we can have some permanent displays here to recognize the heritage that this building has. Also, along those lines, I just challenge everybody to learn what you can. There's a lot of history that I've been paying attention to the last few years. There's tons of books that are great, so challenge us all to read and to learn, and then put that into action. My husband came home today with photos of our nature center. That if y'all haven't been to our nature center, one of the things that in the renovation is it's been wrapped for the walls instead of painting or wallpaper or whatever. It's actual photographs that are put on the walls. And I think this latest is just about completed what's going to be done. And there's a night sky, there's underground part. It is tremendous. And they had already done the stairway is Steel Creek, the creek waterfall that comes down the stairs. So when you're at the bottom, you see the water on the back steps. So anyway, I haven't seen it yet. The pictures looked fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing it. So encourage everybody, if you haven't been in the last 2 days, probably in the last certainly month or whatever, go out. It's open. Go visit, and certainly our biggest treasure there is our staff, and not to mention the whole park, but definitely our staff are huge assets for encouraging people and to go out in nature and know so much to help people know what to look for. Two things on our agenda. We didn't have several things. But show that our partnerships with our building community, our developers, and that's what this council has worked on for several years, so we're seeing some of that come to fruition. And that's it, other than the last thing on mine, again, is the landfill. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sora, if you wouldn't mind to restate what you said in your report. I'm not sure that I understood exactly what you said.
Yes, I'd be glad to. This falls in line with Council's desire to address the issue with Bristol, Virginia and the landfill in a non-judicial way if it's possible. With that in mind, Council and staff, we were directed to seek some sort of a settlement to this issue as possible. And to that end, our outside counsel sent a Freedom of Information Act request to Bristol, Virginia regarding seeking information regarding, specific information regarding the operation of the landfill. This request was sent on January the 11th and had an initial response due date of January 18th. And bear in mind that Troutman Pepper followed the FOIA request criteria set forth within the Commonwealth. She did receive a request for an extension of that request for 7 days, which is allowed under statutes, from Bristol, Virginia's outside counsel. On January 27th, we still had not received a reply, so that extension would have moved it out to around January the 25th, 26th, in that time frame. So on January 27th, our counsel set an inquiry as to the status of the compliance with the request. We still have not received a response to that request for information.
Okay, so just so I understand, we requested FOIA, we FOIA'd for information that would be pertinent to our understanding
Yes.
of timelines in regard to the landfill. And we made the request. It had a deadline. There was the first extension, there was an inquiry, and then there was another extension.
Yes.
So we, Bristol, Tennessee, in the spirit of this not becoming a litigious situation, have reached out no less than 5 times this past month. Is that correct?
The initial conversation took place in early January. This was followed by a FOIA request on January 11th. This had an initial response date of January the 18th, following a request for an extension. Then that moved that date to January the 25th, I think. On the 27th, there was another request by our counsel to Bristol, Virginia's council to provide an update to response to the FOIA requests, and we've yet to receive a response to that request for information and an update as to the status of the request.
So I just want to be sure that I understand correctly. We have reached out no less than 6 times, or had the opportunity of 6 times.
Yeah, probably 4 to 5 is
4 to
probably
5,
probably
okay.
more accurate.
I
with
just
that,
want to be
yes.
sure that I've got it right. So let's be conservative and say 4 times. In the meantime, we know that we have residents that are suffering physically. While it may not be carcinogenic in nature, we know that there are people who can't sleep. We know that there are people that are throwing up. We know that there are people with nosebleeds. We know that there are people with headaches. We know that there are people that have it trapped in their homes. We know that there are people that don't have appropriate air filtration or opportunity. We know that we've had people having to go to the doctor related to this. And while it may not be carcinogenic in nature, it is greatly impairing their quality of life, their ability to work and support themselves. It's affecting our children in the school systems. I know that there are air purifiers in all of the buildings and that the school system has consumed that expense. And we are reminded regularly that we are one Bristol working together to lift each other up. And yet we've asked for information 4 times in 1 month, and there has been no response. Is that what you're saying?
Saying the response has been a request for an extension, and the extended time frame was not met, and then for a request for an update that was also not responded to.
Have you heard anything from the Bristol, Virginia city manager?
No, I have not.
Mayor, have you had any outreach from the Bristol, Virginia mayor?
Have not.
I find this terribly concerning, and contrary to some saying that they're not shocked, I am shocked that there has not been an outreach to at least say we're working on it, we'll get it to you soon. We are constantly reminded that we are one Bristol and that we are all working for the betterment of this community, but the lack of communication on the part of our sister at this point begs to wonder. Are we all really one Bristol working to help all of our citizens maintain their quality of life? What is our expectation? If there's no response to the FOIA, do we have any opportunity, or are we? What is our option?
I think we'll discuss those options more Thursday morning.
Thank you.
Anything else? With that, this meeting is adjourned.